Texas Chainsaw Massacre is fast approaching. It comes out on August 18th, but today, August 3rd, the devs came out with a metagame live stream where they spent an hour talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and about a lot of what they call metagame, which is basically stuff that's outside of individual matches but affects the matches, like skill points, attributes, perks, stuff like that. And so I'm going to go through and tell you all the stuff that you may have missed if you didn't watch it. Try to condense it down into hopefully less than 10 minutes. We'll see. And yeah, so there's some sound clips or video clips that I think are important to see first. They kind of give an insight into like the approach they're having with the game, which if you're somebody that is getting into this game and wanting to play it for a long time, I think understanding how the devs are approaching balance or how the devs are trying to like think about the game is very important to know. So I'm going to play these video clips and then I will go into like the rest of the stuff that's in the rest of the live stream.
Again, there was also a question about leaderboards. Is there going to be leaderboards? Again, no, because that, again, leads into a type of game that this isn't. It isn't a game about, look, I'm the best. This game is, I'm having fun with my friends. I'm making new friends. There's a lot of people in chat here that I've seen their names many times because they're OG from Friday. And there are a lot of people in there that made lifelong friends in that game. And I think it's because of the type of games that Gun makes, is that it creates that type of camaraderie. And what we don't lean into is the competitive side of it, because it starts to breed a different type of player. It's not one that's right or wrong. It skews off of friendship sometimes. It starts to create a different atmosphere that doesn't fit into what I think the game's supposed to be, or even the IP itself. You know, when you watch Friday the 13th, when you watch Texas Chainsaw, you're with your homies sitting in a basement like this, eating popcorn and talking about what would you have done if you were in that situation, right? We make games that answer that question. That's the point of this. We don't make games to say, I'm better than you, right? It's a vibe difference, and it's what we do at Gun, and I hope you guys appreciate those types of games. It's the kind of games that we like to play. We like to laugh. We like to cut up with each other, and we think when you create a sandbox in a game that allows for that type of environment, people walk away from it, having water cooler moments that they talk about and laugh with their friends later. And I think that's a more powerful connection than, ha, I'm better than you. But that's sort of the ethos of Gun, though.
So yeah, it seems like they're kind of approaching more of a fun first and then competitive second or third or however far back, which is just like a shifting of priorities. Some games will focus more on making sure like something is very balanced or it's not overpowered or weak or whatever, and then they focus on fun second. Seems like Gun and Texas Chainsaw, they're focusing, is it fun? And then the second question is going to be, okay, is it overpowered? Is it unbalanced? Which is a good approach because at the end of the day, games are supposed to be fun. It doesn't mean that they're going to leave like really broken stuff in the game. It just means that if something's broken, but it's really fun, then they may leave it in, because both sides having some broken stuff can be fun at the end of the day. It just depends on how it's implemented. And we have the second clip, which is kind of reinforces the fun factor. We'll let it roll.
And fun is the most crucial piece of this, right? Is the thing I want you to like take away from this is like, the game's supposed to be fun. The game's not supposed to be competitive, right? Like that's not the point of the game. The point of the game is get in and have a blast and feel like you're living in the world of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's the point.
So yeah, more so reinforcing that fun is the main objective for them. Everything else is secondary, which is nice to hear. And then also we hear from Wes, who's of course the CEO of Gun, who is making Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We hear him talk about competition because it's an asymmetrical game, although it's 3v5. Or not 3v5, 3v4. My bad. Although it's a 3v4 and asymmetrical, people say like, oh, this is a DB competitor because it's asymmetrical. So every asymmetrical must be a DB competitor. And Wes explains here, no, not really. Let's let it play.
I would rather play a game that's more competitive. There's probably a game on the market you can do that. Mm-hmm. And there'll probably be a lot more. And that's what's the beauty of the video game industry is there are a lot of different games to choose from. You've got a lot of options, and different games can all coexist on the market. I know I have people coming to me asking me, "What do you think about this game or that game?" And don't you think of that game as a competitor? No, there's not a single game on the market right now that's a competitor, because you're all playing games, and that all pushes the industry forward. We want to see more horror games. I've said it 100 times. I'm always the biggest cheerleader when new horror games or old horror games are adding new content, or trying to push the genre forward. I'm always going to be there cheering it, because it makes it better for all of us. Like for devs, for players, it's all in the effort of trying to push the thing forward. It's never an us versus them.
And that's kind of a good approach. Not everything is competition. They're just trying to make a good game. Uh, really trying to compete with DBD or trying to compete with another thing may not be the greatest strategy, but just trying to make a good experience for the people that choose to play your game, I think is a good approach. Now, as for the actual metagame portion of the live stream, there's some interesting things. We'll just go through each of these. So as for the metagame, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the main grind is in the skill trees. Every character will have a skill tree, which the skill trees look like this. Basically, you have a starting off point, which is going to be your star sign, is what they call it. It's basically your power, your ability. Every victim, survivor has an ability. And I believe also of course, the family has abilities. Like the cook can hear for people. Bubba has his chainsaw. Hitchhiker can place down traps and like chase people. I don't know if he has like an equivalent of like the hearing. I forget because the tech test was so long ago. But basically, this is where it starts. You have this skill tree, and the skill tree goes off into different directions. And there's these branches. And with these branches, you have to make a choice. Okay, I'm going to go left, up, or right. And when you make that choice, it blocks off the other paths. And then you have to go through to all the way to the end just by unlocking more skill points to unlock in the skill tree. And anytime, if you want to respec, if you want to go right, if you want to go up, because there's different builds, different perks, and all in the different parts, you can always do that for free. But they're just trying to make it to where if you want to play like a certain way with the character, then you have to go to that certain path. So it kind of restricts your builds, but it also like makes you think a little bit more of like, okay, what am I gonna run and what am I gonna like spec into, which I think is cool. And you may be wondering, okay, how do I get these skill points? You get them just by not upgrading, leveling up your account level. And so if you play, say, Connie, which is the character that is being shown here, if you play a lot of Connie and get a bunch of skill points, you can actually use those skill points on another character. You don't actually have to play the character in order to get the skill points. You can just play somebody else and then dump the skill points in the other character. And what's interesting is like, yeah, you can just like not play somebody and still level them up. But still, if you want to get a perk on them, you can see that there's level 1, level 2. You actually have to use the perks in matches to get XP for the individual perks to level them up. And that's actually how you level them up. You don't like spend like in DBD, you spend blood points to level up perks. In this, you don't spend points to level up perks. You actually have to play with them in order to level them up. So you got to like experience the perk and figure out how it works and use it in multiple matches for you to get the better effects, which I think is kind of cool. And then we also have talking about the like when you go through the skill tree, it like blocks off the other parts. And then also you can see that these are ability points, as they call them. Now the ability points or attribute points, they can go into the attributes. This is further character customization. So basically what this is, PNG. There's 5 different categories for the victim, not bad. And then there's 3 categories for the family. The 5 categories for victim is really what they went over mostly today. And that is toughness, endurance, strength, proficiency, and stealth. And you can use the ability points that you get from the skill tree. You can see that they had 30 that they unlocked to make your character's stats a little bit more padded out. I believe every character is going to have a different minimum stats. And so some characters may be naturally more tough or naturally stronger. And some characters may be naturally weaker, so on and so forth. But you can improve their stats by using the ability points to make them whatever you want, like make them do better in certain regards. And so if we look down here, it actually goes through and says like what each category is. So toughness, which is the first one here, that is basically your max health and also how long it takes you to recover when you're incapacitated. Basically, if you lose too much blood, you become incapped. and then you can pick yourself back up after so much time. It usually happens when you like fall down a well and you take too much damage, then you can get back up. You only do it once, from what I remember. Endurance is basically stamina. Endurance determines your stamina cap, the rate at which you get stamina back, and the rate at which it drains when you're running around doing all that stuff. Strength is the stun duration on the family members, because you can stun the family members with like doors, also with bone knives. So it determines that, and also determines your grappling effectiveness, which grappling is basically if you try to knife a family member to their face, then it's going to enter like a button mashing video game, button mashing game, where whoever button mashes better is the one that wins it, and if the family member wins it, then you just die. So if you spec into strength, you're more likely to win that. And then proficiency, they didn't show these, but I got these from their website. Proficiency is for skill tasks such as lock picking. So it just makes it you're more effective at like picking locks and like skilled things like that. And then stealth, which is the final category, as we can see here. Stealth doesn't make you more stealthy in the game. It just makes it to where the more points you have spec'd into it, the less noise you make when doing actions, which I think that makes sense. And got a lot of perks. They showed a lot of these perks. I don't think they really meant to. Again, this may change upon release because this is an early build, even earlier than like the one that is already like ready to be released, because they wanted to be able to mess around with it. But this kind of gives you an idea of what kind of perks are going to be in the game. So we have proficiency, and you can see like, oh, 0 out of 4,800 XP. Like I was talking about earlier, you actually level up the perks themselves instead of like leveling it up with points. So you actually have to run this in order to get the level 2, level 3. And so level 1, after unlocking a door, the door stays highlighted to all victims for 30 seconds. And so if you open up an escape, everybody else can see where that escape is. And then we have intuition, and holding a key item, fuse/valve, highlights the location it can be used for 40 seconds. And there's one thing that I wonder, because you see that proficiency, endurance, I wonder if that like makes it more effective if you have more points in those. That's one thing I don't know. They didn't talk about that. Then we have flight, which is one of like the ultimate perks that like you get at like the end of your skill tree. Fight or flight, choose flight. Once depleted, your stamina will instantly refill. Has 1 charge and goes up to 3 charges, which seems pretty good. Getting all of your stamina back. Efficient locksmith. When unlocking doors, there's a 20% chance, 30% chance, 40% chance that the tool won't break. Pretty okay. And then we have Jack in the Box. This is strength. When leaving a hiding spot, you take 15% less damage, 25% less damage, 35% less damage. Which that seems kind of bad initially, but one of my viewers brought up this could be good if you like are going to fight the family. You could get into like a locker or hiding spot and then burst out and go stab one of the family members. And if they catch you out and they try to hit you, then you don't take as much damage. This could be really good for like offensive builds. And then we have jump scare. Triggering bone charms and chickens increases your sprint speed by 10% for 4 seconds. And so if you make like loud noise notifications by touching the bone charms or alerting the chicken, I can do a sprint and get away a little bit easier, which could also be used offensively, of course. Fly on your feet. Grandpa is 30% less alerted by your noises at the start of the game. And so at the start of the game, you're like hanging up, you got to break out of your binds. And if you make too much noise, then Grandpa will wake. With this, level 3, he just doesn't notice it. And then we have Lucky Lockpicker. Level 1, the very first time you use the unlock tool to open a door, it has 30% chance that it's not consumed. Oh, wait, is this the same thing? Those 2 different ones. Again, it's not final. It's 2 different ones, but it's the same thing, essentially. It's kind of funny. We have Sanguine Shadow. If you drop below 30% health, it can be refilled. Your health can be refilled by staying hidden and motionless in the shadows or hiding in a hiding spot. You receive 1 health per second to a maximum of 30% of your total HP. And then you can see level 2 is 45%, and then level 3 above 50, I guess. Which seems pretty decent. In my opinion, of course, the longer that you're in the match, the more that you bleed. And so at a certain point, this won't be effective anymore. But it seems pretty good. We also have Sneaky Pete. Your stealth is increased by 357. So this perk actually influences your stealth stat. It's cool that there's perks that do that. We have Twinkle Toes. You have a 25% chance not to trigger the Bone Charms, up to 75. Pretty interesting. Saboteur, after using a generator fuse box, the interaction cooldown for family is 10 seconds longer, 20 seconds longer, 30 seconds longer. Which could be really good. They accidentally gave us a sneak peek at some of the outfits, and so these just look like recolor variants of Connie's outfit, which I guess is to be expected. Like, they're gonna have recolors. And then also the big thing, there's a no DC / dodging penalty. There is no MMR, skill-based matchmaking, and no proxy chat, only team chat. They're pretty big deals, in my opinion, because a lot of people were wondering, okay, is there going to be MMR? Is there going to be DC penalties? And no. And basically from the stream, their opinion is, like, they don't know if somebody's DCing because, like, their power went out or stuff like that. So they're not going to have DC penalties because they can't determine it. However, they did qualify with both the DC dodging penalty and the MMR. If it becomes something that needs to be implemented in the game, they will implement it. But they're not going to have it initially because it's not something that they want to do for their game. But they will be willing. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's also going to be no leaderboards. Again, they don't want it to be super competitive. They don't want any prestiging. They just want people to access the skill trees, get the perks that they want, and play the game, and just have fun with the game. And that's pretty much it. If there's another dev stream or if there's any more information, I will make another video to inform you guys. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on August 18th. Bye, everyone.